If you're watching this live stream in the recording, then I encourage you to take advantage of the chapters that you can find below under the video, because live chat is spontaneous. We have people asking different random things, writing different random things, and also all of this is intermediated with the topic of our conversation. So please take advantage of those. And also, I want to remind you that Human Renaissance is my coaching program, a Tantra therapy program. Go to my website, reformoflife.com, for more information to see if Tantra therapy, if Tantra coaching is something for you. All information is there in the description of the service. Also, I want to remind you that one of my specialties is recovery of vegans, recovery after veganism. So you also can see information on my website if you are the one who got significantly affected by veganism and would like to quit it, but is intimidated, scared, uncomfortable to do that. So I will be happy to work with you. The service on my website is called I Want to Quit Veganism, or something along those lines. Also, for your educational resources, I have plenty of those on my YouTube channel. I have playlists. Also use them for your convenience, because I also have a ton of useful materials that became popular in the ex-vegan community and anti-vegan community regarding the nutrition. So I am your animal-based Tantra coach who is very passionate about such concept as human renaissance, hence the name of my main service, my coaching program, because I believe that in the center of my philosophy, in the center of my belief system, is a compass of my life, is the creative potential of a human. And this is something that I imagine is the main axis, the main source of inspiration, the main source of the life force, driving force for human to develop in all areas of life. Our creative potential, and actually exercising our creative potential, because if you're familiar with physics, we have potential energy, we have kinetic energy. Turning it from potential to actual executed path is something that I value a lot. If you are right now listening to me, please drop something in the chat such that I can see that you are hearing me well, that the quality of sound is good. If you have any questions, hello. If you have any questions, also please write them down in the comments. I will be really happy to strike conversation with you. Today we have kind of on the relaxed side of a stream, and I would like to propose certain topics today. First of all, creativity. Why I select creativity as the centerpiece of human life, some axis that, hello everyone who is joining, please let me know if quality of sound is good. Why I choose it as the main axis, as the main vector of human development. And I would like to touch up as an introduction such an interesting topic as nutrition and biological life habits. Because I've met a lot of people who are struggling, for example, to lose weight, who are struggling to adhere to certain healthy habits, who are struggling to eat well, to ditch some harmful foods and start eating healthy foods. And healthy lifestyle has been something I was very passionate almost my entire life. My great-grandma, my step-great-grandma, the mother of my step-grandfather, she was an incredibly healthy woman. And when I met her, I was probably like 9-10 years old. She impressed me with her energy, with her vitality. I'm 31, Travis. She impressed me so much with her vitality and with her ease of life, with her attitude. She was preaching this concept that the main thing is love. She always was saying that when you prioritize love in life, everything will come to you. Everything will just come to you naturally. Happiness, health, resources, everything comes to you. Thank you. Your eyes are pretty color. Thank you so much. And my great-grandma was embodying her philosophy. She was the great example. And when I witnessed her life, when I was watching that, it kind of determined my path in a way, since I was a child. And since my early teens, I was growing more and more confident that my path that I felt inside, the compass that I had inside, was right, despite the fact that environment around me, the baseline environment that I had around me, was not so brilliant, was not so in tune with that. And so this very influential figure in my life, she lived a very long life. Till the very last days she was going in the mountains, she was very pro mobility, always in tune with nature, at the same time very open in social life, always taking care of herself, always on top of her body, always listening to her body. And that was so amazing. And I started myself pursuing wellness, pursuing healthy lifestyle, and it was something that was very easy for me to do. But then I started meeting people. When I was doing more of a health influencer type of stuff on YouTube, when I was developing different habits, researching different habits, researching different strategies for healthy lifestyle, and I started meeting people who were coming with an issue that they struggle to adopt healthy habits. They felt like they cannot remove certain food groups. They cannot be more active without it being super exerting them, super annoying, going through ultimate willpower. And when I started analyzing that, people who allow themselves to break down in a man-made fashion, they know that there is a method that could help them to reverse certain conditions that are totally man-made, that are totally lifestyle determined. Those people, they could not execute on that process. They could not execute on adopting those habits in a stable fashion. Why? What is that? I realized that health alone is nothing. I just recently worked with someone who was considering switching their lifestyle from veganism that was really destructive for them to a more complete, better, more sustainable lifestyle. And they brought up this concept that at some point it did not make sense to be healthy. Basically, a lot of people, sometimes become healthy. They have high level of energy. And all they can do is to just feel frustration because this energy has nowhere to go. But this is where the concept of creativity and actually sexuality both come into play. A creator, a person who is connected with their creative part, and the person who is embodied and is connected with their libido, with their physicality, with their physical pleasure, with this super biological alignment where all of the desires, all of the impulses are claimed together. This is the person who will be effortlessly pursuing healthy lifestyle. This is the person who will be taking care of themselves in the most effortless way possible. It's not a question for them. The question becomes, how do I do this? What is the method? How do I do this? What do I try? How do I make it? How do I incorporate in my lifestyle in the most convenient way? It's not the question whether they should do it or not. Because for them, it is the important thing that enables them in life, that serves a bigger goal, a bigger purpose. On the one hand, they are the creator. They have this very wholesome relationship, this giving relationship with the world. They receive and they give, they receive and they give. This is the creatorship, this is the leadership. And they have relationships on the physical level with their loved one, with their own body. They know where pleasure source is, how to get this pleasure, and why it is worthy of, why it's worth pursuing this pleasure. Basically, those people who get healthy lifestyle very, very effortlessly, they are fed of unlimited sources of pleasure. They know of the existence of complex pleasures. It's not the cake. It's not stuffing themselves with junk food, with quick pleasures that makes them drown in depression, more and more and more and more. Because those pleasures are incredibly limited, they pursue pleasures that are unlimited, and creativity is the only unlimited pleasure. This is the pleasure in which you can develop eternally. In sexual realm, the pleasure is kind of unlimited, it's absolute in its physical manifestation, and the peak, the climax. But there's still some limitations. That's why people who who get stuck on this level of development, they develop sexual frustration because they try to seek thrill that is just pushing and pushing, that goes into their reserves, their physical reserves. It's insatiable in a sense. But when we go to the creativity plane, this is where it's unlimited. And this is why it's human renaissance. This is why it prioritizes the creative vector. To unlock your creative potential, your talents, and turn them into a kinetically expressed, moving, flowing process. Let me see the chat. Vegan gamer chef. Well, family on this planet. Let's make Earth into a 5-star luxury tourist planet utopia for a global family and end wage slavery, human trafficking, animal slavery, homelessness, and war and sickness. Do you write the Magic Tree House book? No. You're super annoying. Thank you. Are you a soccer coach? No. She's venting. No. Are you a black belt? No. Primus. She just likes talking. Oh, I actually, you know what? I don't like talking that much. Oftentimes. It depends on about what. No one cares. Can I buy you a fish sandwich? I don't know what you mean. Are you an AI? Yes, of course I'm an AI. I subbed and liked. Thank you so much, Scott. We can buy it in Russian if you want. Excuse me, what do you guys talk about? Go talk to another channel. And then mushrooms. Actually, is this the witchcraft channel? I need a few spells for my personal use. It's not witchcraft. I'm a scientist. I'm not a witch. Apply lip moist. No, I'm not going to. I just have a habit of biting my lips. Magic mushrooms unlock your unlimited potential. I don't believe in that, and I don't think so. In general, those magic potions and things like that, if you did not put work into working with your brain directly, all of those potions will still make you quite vulnerable, because you can, I know that people sometimes, they go into mushrooms and other stuff, and they claim that it heals their addictions to other substances, when in reality it's just masking the problem. Addiction to substances, addiction to things is not something that just exists like a blob in your mind. It's not. It's a function of psych. They play function. They play a role. And if you find some other potion that suddenly makes you not addicted to certain things, you're still falling. You rely on that magic potion that kind of helped you. It is always support. It's some cane that you lean on. So I don't believe in that. It needs a much deeper work if you are promoting hallucinogens and stuff like that for mental awakening, especially without actually sitting down and figuring things out. It's not gonna work. These are the people who go to retreats, to shamans, to anywhere externally except for going inside of themselves. They're trying to force their reserves of their psyche to go crack something in their consciousness without actually doing gentle, patient work of reconnecting with themselves. So I'm not endorsing anything. I don't take any mind-altering substances, because it's cheap. It's a cheap way of trying to do things. I am Russian, yes. Seek Jesus. Why? I mean, why? We live in why not Zeus? Why not any other mythology? Actually, when I moved to the US, I was really surprised to what extent people are into ancient desert people mythology. It's so striking to me. I don't know. I don't understand that. Because why? What is the premise of that? All religions are serving socioeconomical thing and how people acquire resources. How does religion that made sense for people in the desert apply to you right now? It doesn't make any sense. You live in a totally different reality right now. It's an imported, strange religion that, I mean, up to you, but I mean, you're promoting it here. And I personally, since you put it in this chat, I personally don't relate to that because I don't understand the practical implications of that. There's so many people who bring themselves to an incredible frustration through uh, kind of outsourcing their brain or their mind into some books that they cannot analyze, that they cannot criticize, that they cannot um, scrutinize, that they lose contact with themselves. So they build some concepts around some mythology, some ancient mythology, ancient Jewish mythology, and they live by that. I mean, if it works for you, then good. But who are you and what are you doing here? This is my private too. What? Okay. I don't know, but because we're in America, you spoke to me. So, oh, what? So yeah, when it comes to religions, I would encourage everyone to be smart with them. If they're published in somebody's interests. And the most popular texts on the planet, they're unlikely to be the most in your interest. She's on steroids. Wow. I mean, everybody has steroid hormones in their body, I guess. Can we meet and go out on a date? No, we can't. Hello, miss. Hi. So, with that, with the health-related attitude and creativity, the motivation to do things in general, when we think about pursuing any goals, the authentic goals, the most authentic goals, they come from the simplest human desires usually. And we need to find the root of every desire inside of our pleasure system. For example, learning the language. Why would I bother myself learning the language? Why? Of course, there is something fascinating about languages. There is some musicality that we may like. But there are also certain travel experiences that we would want. For example, you love to travel to Italy. You travel to Italy, you really love different big cities there. But this time you, for example, would want to go live in some small village where people are unlikely to speak any English. So to get by, you need to know the language, or you need to learn something specific about the culture, or you want to go volunteer there to work in some restoration of some palace, for example, or some small church, some small village. And that's where you will need language. And the pleasures that you're going to get there will be quite simple. The pleasures, the ultimate pleasure, the ultimate goal of those experiences will be really close to will be sitting like inside of your body, inside of your soul, inside of your very sacred parts of your mind, very sacred ideas, very interesting like creative pursuits that you may have. So this is why when we start seeking some goals, we cannot just seek something instrumental. For example, you know how some women, in my practice, some women really want marriage. They want to be claimed by a man. So she wants to be claimed. She wants to be married. She wants that wedding. And the wedding, the marriage, is very instrumental. It does not do anything in the relationship. The relationship has been ongoing. The relationship is happening right now. But whenever I hear that the goal of a person is something instrumental, it is like, I want to have a hammer. Why do you want to have a hammer right now? Having a hammer is a possession. It's a momentary act. There is nothing in having a hammer. You have a hammer. What's next? What's going to happen? You have a hammer. It's just going to be like some liability if it doesn't serve any purpose. So when we hear that somebody wants, for example, marriage, there is always something beyond that desire. It never comes alone. And so we need to investigate what comes. What does this signify for this girl? Why does she want marriage? Oftentimes there are desires that are related to her daily life that have nothing to do with the act of legally signing the documents with that person. It is a desire to be claimed. It is a desire to have some possession, to have control, to have like this retention, to grab something, and to like feel that control, that sense of control, seeming sense of control. And that's usually the cover-up for anxiety, deeply rooted anxiety. So this is why when we are discussing the desires, we need to, oftentimes people first think about what tools they want. They want some money, they want to go somewhere, they want some milestone in a relationship, they want to have a child even. All of these things, they become the tools. They become instrumental things. Or they want to lose weight. What is losing weight? What are you getting as like losing weight? You are getting beautiful body. Why do you need this beautiful body? If you are not aware of what it is, why you need this tool, you're not going to succeed. I want a hammer. I need a hammer. Getting a hammer is not a motivating goal. It's always about something that's behind this thing. And that's always this diagnostic work of very meticulous questioning of your intentions that go into that. And when a person has this creative thing, unlimited thing, something that opens the horizon. I have a hammer, now I open the horizon, I can be a craftsman. I can start making beautiful artisanal furniture, for example. Now I have toolbox, I can start making artisanal furniture. This is an unlimited desire. I'm opening the door with this thing. When I want, for example, to have certain figure, for me, in my imagination, it opens me doors to certain experiences. For example, a person is very heavy. They feel really heavy. They cope with their anxiety and dissatisfaction by becoming heavier through eating food. So when they want to become lighter, when they want to become more mobile, when they want to become more agile, when they want to have better physicality, what is it going to open up for them? What is it going to be? What experiences are going to open for them through that? They're going to the seaside and they meet the love of their life, for example. Or they have certain romantic experience that they never had before, but they always craved. They want to run along the shore. For example, it can be one simple scene that can help a person to go on the path of healthy lifestyle. I want to run along the seashore with that guy. That's all I want. I want to experience this beautiful thing, this beautiful scene that I just really crave. Blah, blah. Hi. You look and sound like a minor. You write like a PDF. You're going off track. I'm reading the chat. Okay, so in one of my previous streams, started streaming and I started encountering a lot of the trends in how people think and regard relationships. That's why here I put the title about social expectations and relationships. Because what I noticed is that when people crave, for example, relationships, when they want to be bound with someone, they start reading some like trends. If they, for example, cannot find a partner for whatever reason they create for themselves, they start analyzing why it is impossible, why it is hard to be in relationships nowadays. They start bringing up different statistics. They start bringing up different concepts that exist in the modern dating world, in the modern dating trends. So what I noticed is that it's really easy, it's really tempting thing for people to just like give up or not pursue what they want because of some created social concept. And funny trends, I don't know, like funny trends that I observed were that people regard, for example, act of legally registering their relationship as the climax of their relationship. I mentioned that in past, like a little bit early in this talk. And when they pursue the relationship, they would be like living together for 5 years without marrying. Shared household, like some shared united or some intertwined budget, but they're just not marrying because marriage, that's like going and putting the signature with the government, is the apex of relationships. And I'm always so perplexed with how people like judge this process through some very strange narrative when everyone can literally live and build life that they want. Personal relationships is one of those areas of life where you can do anything you want. Yet, there are so many concepts that scare people away from this process, from just being in attachment with someone. I feel women gravitate towards physical relationships when they're bored or if their husbands or boyfriends. That's when we gravitate. Do you mean on the side? You mean um, boredom with their husband or boyfriend is an interesting concept because to me it sounds like also inability to how to word it properly such that when people are bored with their spouse, what does it mean to be bored with your spouse? I think it's boredom in general because when a person lives on an animalistic level, animalistic meaning that they did not uncover their creatorship, when they did not take responsibility for their life, when they think that everything should be catered to them, so what they do, they, for example, go see a new person, they're like, oh, performative time, I need to be performative. So they are performative. They're like, oh, I will be fantasizing now. There will be so many emotions because of my fantasies. I will be coming up with beautiful clothing. I will be setting up the mood because there's so much fantasy going on in me. Because we haven't crossed the boundary with that person yet. So there's a huge space for fantasy that just happens naturally in their mind. When this period ends, for some reason, this period ends, by the way, not because it ends on its own. This period ends because people stop treating this process the same way. Their partner effectively becomes like, imagine I have like bookshelf, right? Bookcase right now. If my bookcase, I'm accustomed to it, it's a commodity. It's a commodity. I don't need to do anything with this bookcase besides wiping dust off it. Now if my bookcase decides that it needs attention, it like comes to me and like, hey, I need attention, I need emotions, I need cordial conversations, hey, can you do something? The bookshelf starts moving around. I will be frustrated because people oftentimes confuse relationships with cohabitation. So it happens oftentimes with women, yes, that the man stops being this entertainer at the all-inclusive hotel and instead just lives their life, and woman is like, hey, where's entertainment? I need to be stimulated. Or man does the same thing. Where's entertainment? I need to be stimulated. And the boredom commences because relationships turn into cohabitation. There's no space of actual relationship where I am a woman, I'm a man, and everything else happens outside of that. I'm not bored in my life. I'm entertained. I'm creatively entertained. Relationships is somewhere where I come to have a relationship where I still, 10 years later, 10 years after the beginning of the relationship, I'm going and I'm creating a fantasy. I'm seeing my partner right now, not as some concept that I developed. My partner is also changing. Two partners, the reality is that two partners are always changing if they're in their creatorship. And if we're thinking about couples that stick in just like remain on their animalistic level, when they don't want to evolve, when they have this concept, love me as I am, which love me as I am is an absurd concept because it means that love me as I am meaning right now, It's a declaration that I'm not going to develop anymore. Love me as I am at this level. Oftentimes it means that, even though I understand this beautiful concept of acceptance and loving everybody as they are, but practically speaking, in the intimate relationship, this demand oftentimes means that love me as I am, I'm not gonna change. But change can be productive. It's not necessarily that you change to how I called in previous stream, getting the guts tangled with your partner. It's not that. It's not crushing the boundaries. Change means that I still live. There's still life. I'm still creative. I'm developing. I'm pushing myself to evolve. I am interfacing with the world. Now I'm satisfied in my relationship. There's this beautiful garden that I built. There's this beautiful loving space that I built with my partner. But I'm still living. I'm still bringing to the world. I'm still intellectually evolving. I'm still sensorially evolving. I'm still having some autonomous, interesting life. How can you get bored in that scenario if both partners are evolving? How can you be bored? And then the ugly side of this is when people start saying that they're bored and they need some entertainment from somebody else. How does it sound? That I want a toy. The third person that gets invited into this relationship, the third person becomes a toy. And that's very obnoxious. Like, what are you going to do with this person? You're inviting someone with pure intentions, especially if they don't know what's happening. You're taking responsibility for someone becoming a toy for you. What are you going to do with all that situation? Yes, your life probably will become quite not boring from that, but from drama, from creating tension, drama, neurosis for everyone. How about if we just remove that aspect and transcend this into creatorship and actually bringing, like, learning to see ourselves as a whole and our partner as a whole, and starting to build this space, this beautiful garden of relationship. How about that? Giving space to the partner to develop. Because the most daunting thing to observe is the couples in their like mid-30s. They also usually love to have a child. They cannot be with each other comfortably and lovingly in one space. They cannot be in one room together. They ooze this energy of irritation and hatred, ooze this heaviness and tension. They decide to bring a child in. And then they have this child as a tool. So those couples, usually dysfunctional couples, they don't manage themselves. They cannot go inside. They cannot manage their life. They cannot organize their life. They're usually very infantile. They regard everyone around as functions. Other people who will be they will have some friends who will be listening to their relationship drama. Then they will have side pieces who will be satisfying healing their boredom for them. Function people. Then they bring children who are their functions, who also like to either build a shield between a woman and men. You know, women love to like put the child in the middle. And all of that turns into this life that fully relies on external support systems. That's where people start drinking alcohol as well and going absolutely nuts. All because they rejected the idea of taking responsibility and becoming the creator of their life, taking responsibility for everything that happens in their life. Let me see the chat. Being that relationship development is different from personal development, like it can create conflict if one partner merges relationship development with personal development. It can. And more complications come when personal development results in the deterioration of the relationship. It's possible that you become aware that one partner will not be conducive to development. Yes, it can happen so. But then you doesn't neglect the fact that you take responsibility for your own path. Your development becomes the centerpiece, because the choice then is to either you deny your genetic intention, you deny your path, the only thing where you can find full fulfillment and internal support, for the sake of entertaining some relationship. This is when, if people stay in this relationship without development, this is the question why. Why are you interested in that? Fake voice. Sure. Deadly Chihuahua. Spiritually, you are wrong. You just said bye. Are Russian? Yes, I am Russian. Partially. If you want to elaborate why spiritually I'm wrong, go ahead. This is why I focus on grappling and chose to stay alone aside from weekend social gatherings. Don't you think it's messed up that all humans live for the experience and the goal is love or acceptance? Depends on the person. Different people have different for what they live for. In general, at some point I abandoned the concept of mission, any force, and anything, because I realized that no accomplishment ever satisfies, because accomplishment is momentary. Life is like, imagine you have some accomplishment that lasts, your satisfaction from accomplishment of anything lasts for maybe 1 day maximum. But 99.999% of life is the process. So does it make sense to minimize life to singular events of accomplishment? I'm just trying to understand what your channel is about. My channel is about, did you just realize that you retracted your message? Okay, I feel some men feel ashamed to talk to their partners about their needs. That's, why are they ashamed? Probably there's some training, there is absence of safe space, and that's why I'm emphasizing the visual, emphasizing the metaphor of creating space for relationships, where it's a space. The difference conceptually, huge difference, if you perceive it the way I deliver it. The huge difference is when relationships become this, with tangled guts, this is when you cannot say anything. This is where everything you are saying goes to the bloodstream of trauma of your partner, causing aggression. When you untangle and you create a garden, when you create a room, when you create a space, this is when dialogue is possible. This is when you are wholesome, partner is wholesome, you're talking, and you're hearing it as a actual context, as actual content, as actual message. The etiquette in the relationships is something that's very important to develop. I'm really happy that there are resources nowadays that help people to build this relationship etiquette. Because the fact that you are cohabitating with someone, the fact that you are sharing life with someone, whatever it means, sometimes people actually cohabitate, they don't share their life with someone. They don't actually live with someone. They slowly die with each other. The fact that you're cohabitating doesn't mean that you need to fully crush the boundaries, that you need to fully immerse into each other, that you need to completely forgo of all consideration for other person, that you need to be taking advantage of them at any given point in time. It's not that. We're not using people, we're living with people. That's the idea of relationship. Otherwise, why? To learn to live with someone, to learn to find your way out of parasitic intimacy, parasitic attachment, in which we regard something as needing to be fixed, as something that needs to fix us, something that needs to solve our problems. From this function relationship, we're going to human relationship. And it may sound to some people who are in very entangled relationship, may sound like counterdependence. But if you are surpassing a certain level of development, this is kind of inevitable to live in this format, because otherwise you're not going to move in life. You're not going to be capable of devoting time, your effort, your skill to develop in some realms that give this infinite pleasure. And you will be sitting with this partner, extremely frustrated together, but just because you have an idea that relationship is just cohabitation, this like sitting with each other, having no point in conversation, you're going to feel like you're doing something substantial when you aren't. Quality relationship is absolutely poor. You are dissatisfied because very huge component of your personality doesn't get to be developed because you chose not to. And as a result, you have voids in 2 areas of life, and then 3 areas of life, because it breeds stress. Stress inevitably is going to cause physical destruction as well. Because frustration is not being resolved ever, because everything is dislocated. You will often find things that will shatter who you thought you were. It can actually be pretty frightening, mind-blowing almost literally. Yes, I fully agree with that. That's why I had to forego the concept of mission, and I have video about the identity. Identity, very strongly defined identity, that actually causes you to reject certain experiences, to expand your experiences, to feel the fluidity, adaptability in life. When you have that type of identity that you just hold on to like some safety thing, this is something that is likely going to shatter. And the more passionate you are about something, the more firm grip, the more you try to hold on to something, the more likely and the more painful this experience will be. And this is why when we feel just the frustration, just some slight stress, inconvenience of holding on to something, when we experience that something may not be quite what we want in life, this is when it's important to go revisit and expand our perception. Because imagine this is something, this is my some idea, some identity. I'm holding on to it. It's safe. This is my safety thing. This is my safety measure. I feel like when I grip on it like this, it means that the world around me is unsafe. Everything around me is something that I just don't want to. I don't want to interact. I don't want to face it. And with in therapy, in tantra therapy as well, we learn to expand. We learn to come out of this tunnel of this one thing that gives us safety, perceived safety, because it's not safe. On the grand scheme of things, it's not safe. You will often find that will shatter who you think you are. I do agree, but I think the past few generations have focused on internal development. Methods of internal and relationship development seem contradicting to each other. It seems so. Relationships, see the title of the stream, if it rendered, the title is Social Expectations. Relationships in general, they were for survival initially. Romantic love is a product of 19th century literature. In antique age, there was also a concept of homoeroticism and romantic love back then. But men and women relationships have always been quite utilitarian. There only was a small fraction of people who were entitled to the possibility of engaging in intersex relationships, or male and female relationships with certain higher purpose, with some romantic and intellectual fulfillment. Like heteros, for example, in ancient Greece, were used for these purposes, or served this purpose. This was the class of educated women. Right now it's just reframing, because relationships for just utility, reproductive purposes, it's class dependent. Let's be frank about it. What you make of relationships is really heavily class dependent. So we cannot separate this concept from from analyzing who the person is and what they do in life, what circumstances of life they are in. So it is not a universal law. It's not a universal framework just for everyone. We're only safe for a brief moment in our lives. It depends on how we perceive safety. So safety, we need to discern. We need to use discernment here, because a lot of people, they feel like they're unsafe all the time. It's their dysregulated nervous system. For example, they give this example: every time they said the word apple when they were little, they were hit on the head. They will be terrified of certain things that other people perceive as normal. So it might be a consequence of being dysregulated, habitually dysregulated. And that is something that needs to be corrected, perhaps, because that smears your adequate perception of reality and where you need to be activated or where you're just wasting your resources. I'm Russian, yes. Then I had a comment about the rainbow pillow that is sitting on. Yes, IKEA. I also love these pillows so much. Actually, you know what? Social expectations in relationships, but imagine social expectations and adulting, for example. There's so many people who identify as adults nowadays who are sometimes absolutely incompetent in anything that comes to managing their life, being responsible, actually walking their path, not blaming circumstances for their stuff, not blaming others, not using others as functions in life. There's so many people who will say that they're adults, that they identify as adults, only because they choose to live a boring life that corresponds to social expectations that is designed by the media for what it is to be an adult. And the great example, go to IKEA. You go to IKEA, you see the most fantastic, bright, beautiful things for kids, like for example bedding. You go to adults, they use some military colors. Everything is dusted as if it was, like, I don't know, made in 1920s and then washed 7,000 times in some river. It's insane. And even like in like female products for teens, they have flowers. Everything is so beautiful for them. But for adults, it's like, no, it's going to be very reserved. Then style, even like if you want to appear as an adult who has their life in check, in order, you're likely to be advertised certain fashions that are grayish. And it's such an absurdity that it is a social expectation. It's nothing but social expectation. Because adulthood is oftentimes associated, if you listen to someone like Jordan Peterson, sacrifice, heaviness, struggle as the focus. Not joy-centered life. They literally deny you. The people who preach this style of adulthood, they deny people. They think that people cannot make a choice, so they already infantilize other people when they promote the ideas such as that people who are adults, they must be sacrificing, struggling, enduring, and so on. Instead of signifying primarily that the adulthood is the choice, is the possibility and responsibility for choice. And the choice can be anything. And you can craft your life to be joy-centered. This is my personal philosophy, to make life joy-centered, because why otherwise? If you are more or less biochemically well, if you eat well, right now you can enter any state you want. You can enter Garden of Eden right now. Or you can enter a total depression right now. I was in a lucid dream when the intention to find out who I am. I was always the whim of external things. I asked the dream who I was, and it shouted, "You are who you let yourself become." That's deep. What is the outcome of that practice? Share in the comments. Male and female physiology is designed to yearn for each other, for the experience of union. This which is interruptive to the requirements of self-development, which is more inward-focused than external. Okay, are you going to let us know, please, if you can endure 16-hour-long intercourse? So what are you going to do outside of that? If you are, of course, capable of 16-hour-long intercourse, go ahead, brag in the comments. Hi from Ricky Schaff from Mineral Point, Wisconsin. Hi. Beauty of the human in general, any high intelligence creature, is that we have several components. We have creative, intellectual component, and we have physiological. What happens when people fully settle for their physiological life? We know really well. Know really, really well. Those people end up in a quite unfavorable environment after some period of time. Hello, what's the channel about? My channel is about, you will find several streams. First of all, I have a huge body of work on veganism. I was running a vegan experiment for 3.5 years, then I quit veganism. I did whole research on why veganism is bad, and then I also did an ex-vegan study with 25 participants. So this is a huge body of work of mine that I closed in the summer of 2025, and then I got my Tantra certification, and I am now a Tantra coach. I'm very passionate about human renaissance concept that I developed for myself, that I adhere to my entire life, which involves creative development, intellectual development, expansive life, joy-centered life, and biochemical health and wellness. So this is my channel. This is what it's about. And some people asked me in one previous streams whether I'm a relationship coach. I think that it's, when we think about man and woman relationship, or men and men, if it's like, or woman and woman homosexual relationship, or any, like, I don't have any attachment to gender attributions, but whether it's just intimate relationships, I cannot identify as purely relationship coach, even though relationships are a huge part of human life. It's something that's very difficult for people typically to manage healthily. I am more than that, because I don't believe that we can just segregate one area of life and work on that only. I think that a human has to be considered as a whole, as a physical body, as a sexual entity, and as the creator, as an intellectual entity. This is why it's this beautiful trinity in which we find solutions comprehensively, because when a human sets up on their authentic path, where they're in full alignment with their body, their intellectual and with their intellectual life, their talents, their genetic predispositions for things, this is when everything just starts coming in tune with it, when a human takes responsibility for that path, claims it. I hope that's exhaustive explanation. What about Mediterranean diet, you mean? It's hard to define what's Mediterranean diet. There's so many definitions of that. I eat steak, I understand. Good for you. I also eat steak. I think you didn't see the message where I said I agree with you and explained why I think there is a need for focus on the union due to how the past few generations have focused on personal development. I don't like any distortions. You see, when we're like saying, when people choose, for example, millennial, I think it's in millennial culture, you know, the red, in general, let's bring this up. Red pill movement. Red pillars. See, what are good examples? Drop in the comments if you know any like big red pillar guys. Red pill guys. Red pill guys will say that you need to develop yourself till you're like 45 as a male. You need to develop yourself, and then when you're 45, you just basically, in their notion, you just buy a young girl. This is probably the epitome of what you're saying about focus on personal development and relationships will be something. I disagree with that notion, obviously, because I think that first of all, it's kind of buy, because what else? You imagine 45-year-old man wants to be with a very young girl. I'm sorry, but if there are certain biological things that happen to people, especially if they're not quite on top of their physical wellness, and even that, it's not too pleasant for a young girl to be with that. So they look for security primarily. When security is satisfied, this young girl will be seeking young boy, because her physiology will be screaming for that. That's inevitable almost. It's entering the parent child relationship right off the bat, when there is this age gap and the proposition that you will just be the ultimate provider, dominator, and effectively a parent of this young girl. That's what it is. But this is the ultimate thing of where we have self-development. Relationships come secondary. I don't think that relationships must be an impediment on anyone's personal development. The art is to combine everything. We cannot separate that. If you want to be in a relationship, if you want to be intimate with someone, you should pursue that. It's a natural part of life. It's a natural component of our well-being. You just go for it. The same way you, like, I don't like the notion, for example, I think Gary Vee likes to bring it up, that don't, like, buy the cheapest food you possibly can eat just to kick ass in your business. How long can you be buying and living off the cheapest, the lowest quality food before it what's it called, like, fires back? It's not sustainable. Life must be designed sustainably. If you are a strategic individual, if you have good intellect, good level of intellect, if you have long anxiety and you have your priority set up, if you have a priority that you want to live well, you can live sustainably and you can manage all areas of life. I don't think you're understanding. I'm saying we have been more personal development focused than we're on the foundations needed for relationships. I mean, relationships are deteriorating through world. I don't understand you indeed, because I don't understand how personal relationship is in juxtaposition in this notion with the relationship. Relationship is where your personal development can skyrocket effectively, in some sense. But I was just giving an example where this personal development was separated from relationship, when men would be like getting jacked at the gym, making their $1,000,000, and then at 45, they're like trying to look for a young girl without daddy issues. That's where it's absurdity. But I don't understand what you mean by personal development. I think we're just lost in the definitions here. Because personal development, if it's a career, same, I mean, I don't understand how they can be infringing on each other. Unless, again, you enter the relationship with not a pure intention of having a relationship. When you want to seek something from your partner that you're supposed to be doing yourself. When a partner is not a partner, when you seek a parent, when you seek a child, when you seek someone to exert dominance on and your leadership ambitions on, when there's any impurity, impure intention, and it comes into relationship, then it is a trouble. Otherwise, what's personal development done? The only thing that came to my mind was red pillars as the bright thing there. And again, I don't understand how society and through the world, how we can even characterize relationships through the world. As I was saying, relationships are really heavily dependent on the individual makeup. And Andreas, hello. And the relationships really heavily depend on the class of people, on their education level, on their interest in life. So perhaps where I'm coming from, it's a little bit different from when people are coming from some classes in which they treat each other just like mere animals, or if they have some, let's say, historically agreed upon notion of what man is, what a woman is, and how they should interact. They have like strict laws imposed on that. If someone needs that, okay. If both parties agree with that, if no one is oppressed by that, okay. Everything should exist in the world. If it can exist, let it be. But I struggle to find the applicability of that notion. With red pill, I know people personally who are into red pill. And that's where I noticed that they cannot manage relationship and their self-development, career development, for example. I was in similar boat. I struggled to find a way to be successful, like feeling on top of my career and being in a relationship. I felt like something was draining energy. I had to work on that, and I did. That's why I'm talking about so confidently, because I know it's possible. Initiation helps us understand the development of the man in the absence of woman. women. Men and women weren't always together in all cultures, even as they aged. Partners develop apart from each other. Initiation also, if you live in some tribe where survival depends on predefined, very rigid roles, very, very conservative communities, religious communities, tribes, they oftentimes they have law for what a woman is, what a man is. And because their survival depends on that, yes, they will perform certain initiation rituals that initiate men and women into their gender roles. Right now, what do you define as a gender role in the developed West? I feel like we reached the point in which there is high degree of gender androgyny, of in general, like human androgyny in the social context. I'm personally very happy about it. I think that everyone should have freedom to develop in the way they want, creatively, without any inhibitions. That's why I would celebrate that. I think it's a huge progress that we're at such a level where survival does not require people to have super strict gender roles. Like, you know that documentary, What is a Woman? No, beyond biological matters, it should not matter. That's it. Moreover, it's purely gender roles are should play a role in the gender relationships and the intimate relationships between two people. So I don't know. It's the problem that I envision is for people who have potential to do things. When they start inhibiting themselves in something, when there is a huge creative impulse, when there's huge degree of desire to manifest yourself in the world, to express yourself, but people are like, but I'm a man, or I'm a woman. Even if they don't speak that up, even when they don't bring it to their awareness, when they don't express this conflict that, oh, but I am a man or I'm a woman, they might just very quietly, subliminally perceive it as an inhibition. This is where the problem commences. I think alignment matters. Our social behavior should affirm our biological identity. What are social behaviors? But why? Why do you want biological identity? To, like, what do you perceive as? You go on the streets. How would you benefit from that? Why do you need that? I don't get it. Are there fixed roles in relationships? Are there fixed roles in relationships? No. I mean, fixed for whom? For one couple. They can change. They can change anytime. And I agree with that. It's probably. I don't know. I can't agree. There are always exceptions to anything. There are people also confuse sex and relationships too. Relationships are much broader than that. Sex can be even much more brighter than just copulation, like animals. It can go beyond the scenarios that some people in print, for example, like first go and they just have some go to. So I don't know. I don't know why anyone. That's my big thing. I always ask people, when you hold on to some identity, why do you hold on to this identity? Why do you need to live like this? I'm a man, and this is a woman. Why? Why do you need this? Why do you feel threatened? Why do you feel threatened otherwise? What's up with that? Why not step in the world and see bigger picture? Why in general fixate on that? What's the purpose? What's the function of that fixation? Why? What will happen if you release it, if you let it go? What will happen? In this day and age and relationship, it takes two to financially make it. Again, we're returning back to relationships as a function of class. Yes, it might be the case. In relationships where finance, interesting topic for me is I worked with people who are in relationships with very wealthy people. So for them, this is a very interesting question when finance, because you see, utilitarian nature of relationships imposes certain things. But in a circumstance when relationship does not have to be the part of survival, becomes an interesting task for what is the role of a partner who, for example, doesn't bring anything to the table, doesn't have to take care of the household as much, like through manual labor. It becomes a creative task for women who, for example, seek men or in relationships with very, very wealthy men, for them to conceptualize their role in relationship. Because how not to be just adopted, how to actually contribute when you seemingly don't have to contribute to through certain means, like going and making soup, cleaning the whole house all day, and single-handedly taking care of children. What is the next evolutionary step of this relationship? How to make it make sense? And this is a very interesting creative task, because my experience and the experience of my clients is tied to that situation in which you, as a woman, don't have to. On the one hand, you are in a relationship with the provider. On the other hand, you are no longer the service person. You're not serving in the house. How do you develop then? And then it all boils down to embracing this creator again. Becoming a very intellectual, very developed woman with a very interesting outward lifestyle, who actually contributes to the world, who actually is in full alignment with her creatorship. It all boils down to that. It all boils down to that. And this is where my professional interest lies. You find that, and everything comes in place. Because it's really easy to, again, to out of relationship, you turned into cohabitation. I wash the floor, I'm in love. I love you, I wash the floor. I wash the windows, I love you. Your washing, your cooking becomes like this language of love. It's cohabitation. It's just agreement on how we maintain the environment. Yes, we build this element of maintaining our garden, but what's beyond that? This is where we enter the plane where relationships stop being this crude function, and where we need to understand something bigger. And this is what my job is about. Because two people who join in the relationship on the basis of, okay, I will be your janitor here, then this woman eventually might develop understanding that 10 years later it was not it. She did not buy love. She did not buy what she expected out of this relationship by being a janitor. No. And she lost 10 years of life. That's why she will say that I lost my best years for you. You stole my best years. Nobody stole anything. She just refused to locate her energy into her development. Priority was not set properly. She did not exercise her deepest identity, deepest intent from nature. Instead, she became a janitor, self-employed herself as a janitor. Or was trying to financially contribute to maintain the slavery status of both partners. It all boils down to that, what we started with. Creatorship. Creatorship begins with responsibility and giving potential. Talk, talk, talk. Yes, fixed. Did the chat froze or is nobody saying anything? I'd expect that people would be talking. So yeah, I'm encouraging everyone who's stuck in some notion how it should be in society, what biology wants from you. Your brain is as biology as anything else, as your, I don't know, sexual organs, as your digestive system. Your brain, your intelligence, your creativity is as natural, as biological as everything else. Thank you for checking in the chat. And we cannot separate the two. So in the works with the couples, by the way, one on this topic, very interesting thing that I witness is the desire to appropriate the resources of the other person. And this is what comes also from this dysfunction, when a human is not personally fully on their creative thing. Bodies are handicapped in a manner in which we're wired to yearn for each other for union. It means to some extent we are to submit to our bodies handicapped yearning for wholeness and external. Again, I want to ask you, are you capable of, like, outside of sleep time, 8 hours we sleep, 16 hours of wake time, are you capable of yearning for a woman for 16 hours straight? Hello, I'm just listening while I do some embroidery. Hi, Psycho Cat. Thank you for checking in. I'm very glad to see you. But I'm not saying that our biological imperatives should be our main imperative. We had the chat when the other day or yesterday, I don't remember when we had the chat about that. The pursuit of that, to try to fulfill everything, to try to extrapolate some blueprint onto every area of life, is a cognitive distortion. Man and a woman are created for, again, if you also, oh my god, if you also want to use a natural notion, then for, excuse me, but for about a year, 2 year and a half, you are not going to be needed for your woman. When you complete after 1, 2 maybe successful sexual acts, when you're yearning for each other's bodies, you're not going to be interested in your woman. You're not supposed to be with her anymore. In some tribes, they actually exercise that. Men fertilizes one woman and goes on to have intercourses with other women. So is this biological? Is this nature intended? We need to build our relationships based on this spaces now. Sex is fun, enjoyable, but one day we'll be old and need more than that, so companionship is crucial. I don't think that, I mean, more than that is always needed, I think, because we always are communicating. We always are communicating intellectually, emotionally, physically. They're always this trinity. And sexual context never dies. Actually, one concept that I developed for myself by observing also observing people, observing mature couples, that obviously you can tell they're not romantically or sexually connected for many years. You can say that by looking at them. Is erotic death. Erotic death is the death that happens before the physical death, and oftentimes decades before the actual physical death. And erotic death is the predictor of so many troubles. It's so crazy because erotic death causes people to kind of, when we close out from one big component of our life, when we reject it, when we don't want to work on that anymore, it causes an avalanche effect or ripple effect on every other area of life. And oftentimes it doesn't necessarily coincide with menopause, for example, with hormonal decline. Sometimes it happens way before then, the erotic death, which is the rejection to keep yourself libidinous, because the libidinous energy is the opposite of martido. So whenever people start experiencing this erotic death, this life turns into the slow dying life turns into something incomplete. Life suddenly closes out one of the huge sources of energy, huge source of pleasure. For some reason, people, like, due to some troubles, some choices perhaps, they close this area of life for themselves. And for many decades, they keep this half existence. Sometimes it even doesn't come with sublimation. If a person, for example, didn't at some point, why I'm also passionate about what I'm doing, it's very important to embrace what I'm talking about, the creatorship, the responsibility, finding your path. So important to embrace it early in life, because if you don't do it in a timely fashion, when you don't step on your path, when you don't unlock your creatorship, you're stuck with some job that you don't necessarily care about. You're just stuck. And then you also forgo your intimacy. You forgo the physical, sexual pleasure, romanticism, romantic relationships. You forgo all that. What's left of you? Where are you go? How are you going to live? You don't have any higher motivation to live. You don't. Sometimes people, yeah, they have children. They kind of realize creatively through children, but then children become a function. You should not be placing children where they don't belong. In that sense, child becomes the function that substitute your relationships with your partner, your sexual relationships with the opposite sex or same sex if you're homosexual. And the child substitutes your creative development. The child in this family will grow to be nuts from all of the pressure that is put on their tiny little back. They're not going to be able to live their life unless they go through a very, very, very serious work. This is why it's very important to keep all of the components in check, being in full harmony, in full awareness, agreement with what is happening to you. Developing in all areas of life simultaneously, not choosing those social concepts that doing this means that I no longer can do this. You probably heard that for example, a woman stops being intimate with her husband after she birthed a child, already breastfed. All physiological things evened out. No reason to stop being intimate with her husband. But she will be thinking of herself as, but I am a good mother. That's why I don't pursue this area of life. What is happening then? Her child becomes the shield, this shield between her and her husband. She uses the child to also drain her and perceived frustration into the child. Do children need it? Does next generation need it? No. This is when things become evil, because this is when other innocent people are being put into this picture. Then I know that there was also a lot of people, the spiritual people, say that you chose your parents. You chose your parents. This is your, I don't know, whatever, karma or whatever. This is something chilling. And a lot of people say that, thank you, my child, that it chose me. No. This is when I hear that from people, from parents, this is to me a red flag, because they're infantile parents who don't want to take responsibility for their actions, for their choices, and if they do something that they maybe even subliminally know is kind of off, when they try to take advantage of their child, they always have this thing that, my child chose me. So this is one of those spiritual thingies, spiritual caverns that some people love to go to. My children needed to experience this. That's why they chose me. Yeah. But yeah, well, as you said, everything needs to be developed. I don't know if any people were in relationships where it was just pure physical part and nothing else. I feel like it always kind of comes to the point in which it becomes more than that. In general, all relationships, I think, are either when we either dysfunctional relationships would be when we regard each other as function, or when we try to and when relationships are good is when we actually see people for what they are, and we actually enter a relationship and we try to align on all levels of our mind and body. So that's quite important. So I think it's a basic hygiene of a relationship that's more than utility, a relationship that's more than just economic function, a relationship that's more than just put something on the altar of some imaginary society. Another thought that I had, did I voice it somewhere? I don't remember. But society is such a weird thing, and the social expectations with those like weddings, with all this show, claiming each other, making some social show agreements, whatever. Somehow these become the climax of relationships. It's so bizarre to me to always like witness that. I actually never go to weddings of anybody because I disagree with the phenomenon. I only went there for some at work. But I generally I don't go to weddings because I disagree with that thing so much. To create it's such a strange demonstrative thing to me. It's the peak narcissism and the pursuit of authority when people respect institutions more than their own feelings, their own relationship, and their own choices. It's so bizarre to me. I just that's some peculiarity of mine that I just don't go to weddings because I disagree with that. You know how I mentioned that in my video about narcissism, how narcissism is narcissism like to turn people into functions. And weddings turn people into functions. That's literally, especially when it comes from women's fervent desire to marry. That's literally it. Like, I want you to become a function. And I think that's part of why marriages destroy relationships oftentimes. Good relationships. You know, probably you're familiar with those stories when people like were dating like for many, many years and then decided to marry and then suddenly everything fell apart. Because it's introduction of some observer into relationship. In effect, marriage and wedding especially, it's a ritual in which you put a ton of other observers, a ton of people into your relationships. It's such a crazy phenomenon. I'm also missing some of the messages in the chat. If you have it set to top chat, it filters out potential spam, even if it's not. Need to select live chat or all chat instead. How do I do it? Settings. Oh, indeed, I have all messages. Woo! Cognitive distortion, it's the same thing many other cultures did. Many cultures attempt a blueprint. Why do you want a blueprint like in many cultures? Why can't you take advantage of what the modern world offers you to not use a blueprint, to use your willpower? Why is it so difficult? Why is it such a rejection of something that you can create for yourself? Why blueprint? Why cultures? I mean, you can join. There's so many conservative cultures that are still living in accordance to blueprints. And you hear the lingo of people: I may not, I should be, I can be, and so on. Don't go to funerals. Yeah, I mean, it's another interesting ritual, especially when it's collective. You know, you're connecting at all of those public events. You're connecting to a bunch of foreign energies. That's also something strange because not everyone needs to grab on somebody's energies, and people are often susceptible to that. Why blow up things and why to be connected with concepts of others about certain events that can be neutral, that can be intimately experienced? I don't think that everything must be shared. And a lot of times also in our day and age, with like people go usually to those events and they don't even know who they're with, total strangers who put their own meaning in whatever is happening, but emotionally you connect with that if you're a susceptible person. It's really strange. Yeah, I think about these things a lot, and a lot of things, yeah, they don't make sense actually. Then big weddings are overrated and just a waste of money. Spend the money on a nice vacation somewhere. And then Fruity Cutie agreed. So yeah, big weddings is something that I also can't comprehend either. I mean, if it's, let's say if big wedding is 10% of your income and you super want to organize a holiday, you really want to perform this demonstrative act in presence of hundreds of people, being in the vanilla cake dress, and your man experiencing strange emotions, all of it being public, it's very exhibitionist in my opinion. I don't know. It makes sense again when it's, for example, one royal family and the other royal family, and they meet together. It becomes something of governmental, let's say, importance. And then people who worship those leaders, they can go and they can be like, wow, prince and princess. We're now going to worship this couple, prince and princess. But when there is some person in love and the other person in love, and they create this exhibitionist act, what is it for? What is it for? I don't understand. For myself, I don't get it. And oftentimes it's literally the power lever. There's rarely pure intention. I know people who do weddings because they just want to give to their friends, they want to create a holiday for their friend. Full respect to that. But when there's this, how much money is the ring? How much did he spend? How many annual salaries in this ring? When this begins, I'm sorry, this is a human trade. This is not, it's absolute nonsense. This is one of those cultural staples. I will respond to Cabello Shoko, whole theme. I don't get it. It's one of those cultural things that makes zero sense practically, and mentally it's incredibly abusive in its nature. Because then people could have babies with as many people as they want. That's not conducive to the amount of attention a baby needs for a good head start. It makes people bound to each other. It depends also on what strategy you want for your baby's upbringing. In some societies, quantity of babies is a priority. In some societies, quality of the babies is a priority. In fact, allegedly, there was this major shift through agricultural revolution when quantity of babies increased, but the quality of babies decreased. And what to choose, what is the best strategy for the society, is self-regulated, I think, based on the survival, based on the common sense and some, I guess, reasonability that people come up with. It's self-regulated usually. But actually, in my perception of the world, and also from witnessing people with ton of children, unfortunately, if the family cannot afford large amount of staff to give attention to every child, to give education to every child, because nowadays we should understand that we create children to let them in the world that is incredibly demanding for intellectual prowess. That's incredibly demanding for psychological resilience. You cannot just birth 20 children and just go like, whoa, go ahead. Give them mediocre education, never develop their talents. Well, it's unethical. It's not reasonable in the modern developed world. When you look at families with a ton of children, if they don't have resources to give attention, proper education, proper upbringing to every single child, it becomes worse and worse and worse after like 3 children probably. After the 3rd child, things go south. Both psychologically, children become very deficient in attention because early on they did not receive the proper attention. Parents were always torn between other children. They don't receive proper attention. And then also, it's very hands-off kids. Parents don't give them, especially if they have, for example, if they birth every 2 years. I had a classmate who was birthing every 2 years. And their children, I mean, they already had a toddler. And they birth another one. So it's not a sustainable path for the modern world. It's not, definitely. I think aggressive reproduction is only for elites with very good financial standing. It's not for general population unless with awareness, let's say. Where are you from? I was born in Russia. I agree, after the baby is born, I don't blame the end of the relationship or the end as a result of fading sexual attraction. Maintenance of the relationship for baby's sake suggests focus attraction. I'm trying to understand. For maintenance of relationships for baby's sake. I think the two adult people must build a framework in which their relationship must not be a devotion. Relationships are their separate category, and the baby is a separate category. Personal development is a separate category, and people must be ready for that their life evolving, them developing in life equates to expanding the amount of responsibilities that you possess. This is why it's another thing when you're a responsible creator, when you're leader of your life. You understand that, and that's why you take care to have resources to execute that. You make sure that you build a framework in which it's all possible. Because if people begin, if they don't take risk, they don't grow up, they don't claim their path, they're not the creator, they just live in the flow without using their brain, they engage in brainless reproduction. When they engage in brainless reproduction, they're like, okay, life became harder. What to do? They blame certain things, blaming and taking, and for example, making a child a target of certain work, sacrificing for a child especially. This is a very strong burden on a child. This is when child becomes a function. This is the problem, because when people are infantile, they start building all of those schemes in which they allow other areas of life be misplaced and serving them in justifying why they can't, when they don't want to take responsibility for their life and building the framework in which everything functions. I'll give you an example here. Usually, what happens if people don't take responsibility for their life, if they misplace things? They will build dysfunctional systems. The dysfunctional systems, let me reset the chat a little bit. The dysfunctional systems allow people to be victimized, to not claim their path, to not claim their creatorship, to not claim their leadership. Victimhood is a very popular strategy for people. That's when they will be like with sad face, thinking that we need to stay together for the kids and so on. Or they will be arguing their entire life, staying together for the kids and so on. This is this victimhood strategy. People build, instead of building a functional system, putting one step, performing this little effort to build a functional system, they're going to maintain this functional system and being a victim, crafting experiences in which they can keep being victim. The example here, when I had my puppy, he was 2 months old. Well, he was potty training, and we had a bunch of pee pads all over the place. He would use bathroom at night. He was doing really well with that. But then on Saturday, I would want to sleep in after the work week. And I didn't feel like getting up to walk him. This was in the period when I started walking him. So he was using both the pee pads and I was walking him. So I had to do this double chore in this bridge between two habits. So on Saturday, I would sleep in just a little bit without walking him. And he already was accustomed that at say 7:30 or 8 a.m., I'm going for a walk with him. So every Saturday I would try to sleep in a couple of weeks, and every time he would have a major accident, in which it would be like totally catastrophic. Like he would wake up, he would wait for me, I would be up, so he goes uses bathroom on the pee pad, and sometimes it would be a huge accident. He would go drag it around. I would wake up. I would know that I need to walk him and I need to clean at the same time. And then while I'm cleaning, he's going and dragging it around the apartment. So I need to clean much more, but then I don't know what to do, whether I walk him such that he doesn't have another accident or whether I continue cleaning. So I'm elbow deep in all of this stuff. I'm tired after the work week. And my thing is that I wanted to just a little bit sleep in, just a half an hour more, because it's my Saturday. It's the most stressful day for me, when I can just relax. I was angry at my dog, but I was angry not because he was doing anything bad. I was angry because I created a dysfunctional system. I created the system in which he was the guilty, I was the victim. I had the chance to just dump my emotions on him. And I felt extremely bad afterwards. I felt incredibly guilty for that afterwards. I did not want this system to continue because I cried so hard, because I felt angry for my puppy doing his best, but still failing to meet my expectations because I built dysfunctional system. So my action plan was, because I didn't want all of this dynamic happening, I built a functional system. I figured that I will be waking up no matter how, whether it's Saturday or something. I need to stick with my schedule. I need to help him to develop such that we build a more streamlined system as fast as possible, as efficiently as possible, such that he doesn't develop any neurosis around going to the bathroom, and such that I feel good. My priority was to feel good, to build good life, to be responsible, to be a leader, to lead towards a good life. I built that system where there was no space for victimhood anymore. And this is how I exited out of the dysfunction. When we start thinking about couples that make children and they slip into victimhood dynamics, victimhood, guilt, blaming, aggression, dumping emotions, using each other like a garbage bin, like landfill, for emotional, for tension. This is the dynamic that I disagree with. And that's something that requires one action to sit and build a framework that's functional. I love to say to people sometimes that it takes less energy to solve the problem than to coexist with the problem. It's much easier to solve the problem. Much less expensive to solve the problem than to live with the problem, because living with the problem leads to more problems. It turns into an avalanche, reinforcing the system of victimhood. It's being selfish if you are working on yourself and not ready for a relationship, and you are open about it. People around me think you should find someone and things will fall into places themselves. Depends on what you're working on. If you want a relationship, if you're not in the conflict, then let me read it again. Is it being selfish if you're working on yourself, not ready for a relationship, and you're open about it? People around me think, what do you mean you're not ready for a relationship? And this needs to be dug into the detail, because when people hear somebody is not ready for relationships, it may indicate a variety of dysfunctions in their imagination. Not being ready for a relationship may mean anything from just having this as your specifics, you just don't want it, totally valid. Or it may mean that you have some internal conflict. For example, you would want a relationship, but rationally you don't want a relationship because you don't think that it will fit in with something. But you want it, for example, physically and emotionally. So you need to be very frank with yourself and understand whether it's your genuine desire, body, mind, your intuition, they all agree that you don't want to be in a relationship, then okay, who cares? Or if there is some conflict, that some part of me wants to be in a relationship, the other part doesn't want to be in a relationship, then we need to think about why is it so, and how You cannot experience the conflict. Have you ever observed an example of your perspective of healthy relationship that you describe? Yes, I observed. For myself actually was prioritizing building such relationship, and I observed who would it be? Oh my God, there was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful couple. I really miss them. I met them. No, we met them a couple of years ago in the apartment complex that we rented in, and we made great friends. Oh my God, what a lovely couple! My inspiration. They're so wonderful, and they were in their 50s. They looked much younger. Absolute wonderful energy, happy children, super relationships with parents, super relationships with children. Everybody was glowing. It was just phenomenal. They were total inspiration, and they solidified my path. They made me feel like I was on the right path myself. Super thankful for them. I did notice that. Did witness that, I mean. Do you mean you want the benefits of relationship but without declaring any labels or commitment to the person? Yeah, there's a chat between the users. Let me close the curtains real quick and drink a little bit. I'm back. So, has the conversation been interesting to the sister? So today I'm a little bit. I feel like I'm a little bit giving off a little bit of angry energy. We're talking about relationships and social expectations of relationships, and the latest thing we ended on was whether I ever witnessed relationships that I'm preaching about. Because I was talking about the dysfunctional systems and how people build systems of victimhood and guilt and blame, basically the typical example of toxic relationships that came from the question discussion of maintaining relationships for the babies, for the kids, basically staying together for the kids, as the song goes. And yeah, so that was the thing. No, it's not like that. To me, a relationship is possible when you're fully committed to that person, and that is not possible for me due to my work. What do you mean by fully committed? How many hours is that? You should understand actually a very important thing. Very, very important thing. The success in the relationships largely depends on the needs of people for how much intertwining, how much interpenetration they need, how much time they need to spend together. If you find a person whose makeup, like they're fully built in full alignment with the idea that they need to spend 1 hour a week together to be happy in a relationship, but you need to be in a relationship or exercise the relationship for 5 hours in a week, will it work? No. If you find the person who is like you need, for example, 4 hours a week, they need 5 hours a week, will it be working? Likely yes. So you should identify what this commitment is, what is full commitment, because in your imagination it may be that you'd want this full commitment being 24/7 together. No, likely it's unlikely that you will find the person who will be interested in that. So it's reasonable to be looking for partners and discussing that and observing in the person what their expectation is for the amount of time spent and quality time spent. And oftentimes also this idea of relationships, sometimes it boils down to the quality time, to actually meeting together. It's a huge yoga of the mind to actually do it early on and develop the framework in which relationships become very nurturing and functional right away, right off the bat. So there will be some moment of discomfort, there will be some moment of conflict, but this is something that you probably need to start discussing early on. The amount of commitment that you need, because you can have an idea that should be some way, but you may find the person for whom it's not a concept. They may need absolutely different thing from what you're imagining. Selfish request, but would like you to do health related life one day. A health related, what do you want? Health, in what sense? I see, yes, when talking about relationships, regardless of what one says, someone can try to turn it back on them. There are no selfish requests. I am here with you today. It's it's the nature of our exchange right now. There are no selfish requests. I mean, health related life, it's an interesting one. Actually, I have this, I don't know, do still guys watch health influencers? Because I seem to have dialed back on that. I guess I learned enough and came to peace with certain needs of mine. Maybe I dialed in my lifestyle, optimized it more or less. I don't know, kind of lost association with health influencers because I'm tired of neurosis that is bred around literally everything in the world. To me, it became kind of an antithesis of overall health when people go and just go nuts about microplastics and literally everything. and I don't know, going through supermarkets. I assume there are new nibs of info you learned. I You mean nutritionally? Just specify that if we're talking about nutrition right now. Coffee or tea, or neither. It may seem like an arbitrary question, but I don't think so. I don't drink coffee. I drink tea. I dialed back on green tea because it was too stimulating for me. But I do cacao though, specifically Dutch processed cacao. I like it a lot. And I drink herbal teas. I'm 42 and have been working out pretty steady since 2010. Nowadays, I listen more to my body when working out. That's a very wonderful idea, I think. Working out, there are there are bloggers, in especially carnivore, animal-based meat-eating community who are super into working out, and also into some procedures that induce short-term stress, such as cold plunges, such as whatever, saunas even. Some extreme heat saunas also can be stress-inducing things. And on the one hand, there is this idea that those stresses, they train your nervous system to withstand stress. But then you look at someone like David Goggins. You know David Goggins? David Goggins, I think, is the antithesis of what I would consider healthy on all levels. So fitness, you really need to know how with nutrition you go through different, people like to experiment with different dietary systems. People like to try these and these things, some extreme diets perhaps, and they learn through that. They learn what works for them the best. With fitness, I think it's the same. You go through multitude of different things, and eventually the goal, I think, is to come to intuitive movement, intuitive fitness, see what works well for you. And preferably also, just as with mentality, with the core of the mind, it should be done early on. I, for example, cannot ditch working out completely. I cannot. It's kind of part of who I am. It's part of my body. My body craves it. If I don't work out, my body craves it. But it doesn't mean that I work out like crazy. I never was able, since my early years, when fitness was incredibly popular, when everybody was striving to be a fitness model, when everybody was doing those like big booty exercises, I never was able to get into that. I never was able to get into regimented fitness that would be like, today I did 10 reps, tomorrow I'm doing 11 reps, I'm tracking my progress, and I'm doing it for progress. Never was able to do that. To me, fitness was just my natural hygiene. Like, I move and it feels amazing. I move and I connect with my body. I move and my body feels like it's full of oxygen. It's breathing. It's pulsing. It's really pleasant. So this is what fitness is for me. But I cannot set any fitness goals, never. I just can't. I cannot treat it mathematically. I cannot move my brain outside of my body for fitness sake. Outsource it to some app, and stick up with it. I'm now splitting my response about multi-streaming in half because live stream comments are limited. Yeah, I saw your comment. I will be thinking how to do it. I need to do research. I haven't done it yet. You see, I'm getting into habit of live streaming. While I'm building a habit of something, I usually prefer just focus on building a habit first, and then trying to build systems on top of that. Like, I started, for example, making short videos for YouTube. My goal was to stick up for making short videos for YouTube every day for a month, and then I started also adding them on Instagram. Because if I had, for example, for me it would be easier. For me it would be hard discipline-wise. It would require discipline to put some videos, for example, on YouTube, then on Instagram. I would feel overwhelmed. And when I'm just building the habit, when it's already uncomfortable, I don't want to put extra burden. So right now it's my third stream in the series. And this is why I am just prioritizing just doing the live streams and getting into habit of that. I want to reach the state in which I just go and it's easy. As opposed to right now building something up and making it something different. I'm only trying it. So this is my method. While it's sprouting, I'm not touching it. When it's sprouted, I'm developing. Then, yes, I love saunas, many health benefits. Excellent answer. I'm rather a tea nerd, really, and I go easy on green tea for the same reason you mentioned. I prefer oolongs and aged puers. Tea sharpens the mind without hopping it up. Then basically use OBS with a plugin that allows it to mainstream. YouTube, Twitch, Kick works for me. If OBS works on TikTok, your content would work there too. Thank you. I will check this out. Fitness is a lifelong marathon. Yes. But again, attitude towards fitness can be different. You should watch tutorials about whatever you want to do specifically. There may be simpler tools than OBS. There are, but I don't know if they can multi-stream. Thank you for the suggestion. You get done working out, it's a natural high. I'm a carnivore, but I do think we're linked to plants. For example, mushrooms again interacts with us in unique spiritual ways that suggest to me find their place among plants. Mushrooms are not plants; it's a separate kingdom. Linked to plants, I mean, we're linked to everything. We breathe what plants what metabolites of plants. We breathe them in, and we eat them even through animals too. Linkage of human and nature, yeah, it's you love this topic of linkage of human and nature. We're linked to everything through respiration, through consumption of food, through water. So we're connected to everything. That said, I don't find the intentional intoxication to be something to look forward to and to exercise. I don't. Even if not psilocybin, there's marijuana, but you get what I mean. I don't care. I don't care for any substances. Like, to me, it's all cheap, artificial way of tricking to trick something to get some to basically undo the purest alignment of your brain and how it assembles reality for you. It's something cheaty, and anything cheaty is not bringing sustainable results. That's why I can't make myself be attracted to that in any capacity. I just can't. So I mentioned that early in this stream because somebody was writing about mushrooms. I just can't. It's like, how, to what extent, I don't know, to me it's like such a level of bravery or disconnect, either or, to allow something to force tweak your brain without you being able to control it. It's a very, it's either, again, some unleashed bravery or lack of connection with yourself, like super deep disconnect. I can't relate to that. I'm sorry. Like, anyone who writes about mushroom will have this universal answer. If not recreational substances, there are also medicines that are effective at helping us. Agreed. Mind-altering substances have always scared me a bit, even the idea of them. Yeah, I mean, it's you only need to look at the person under influence to know what it is. A person under influence is perceived as a threat. It's not perceived as, you look at them and you're like, wow, how beautiful. No, you look at them and you're like, what's wrong with them? I had a very striking experience. I met people who were high recently, like last summer, I think. They were walking high, and I saw them being fully sober before. And to me, they looked like some mutants, like people with something being very off about them. I can't relate to that. I'm sorry. I love human consciousness so much. I love the purity of human consciousness so much. And I also witnessed, I stopped taking any alcohol in 2018. I was always kind of conflicted with that. I was doing it under influence of my parents, actually, because they were always saying that it's a psychiatric problem if a person refuses to drink alcohol. And they, for some reason, really loved the idea of alcohol. To this day, it's like coping mechanism for my stepfather. And everybody, what always upset me about alcohol in the society is how people talk, how they would talk normally. And then when topic would switch to talking about alcohol, they would be like, they would have this smirk. Alcohol. It's like, suddenly alcohol allows them to do things. And it's so cheap too. Like, why do you need this substance to allow you to do things? And the most, the awakening experience for me was, I was at the conference with my co-workers, and one female co-worker went to the restaurant after our presentations were, and we were at the restaurant, and we had some dinner. It was some, like, I think it was some Italian restaurant, very delicious food, and we had a couple of glasses of wine. And this co-worker of mine, who we spent a lot of time working with on some projects, after we were done dining, pulled me in the room and wanted to push me into some non-consensual relationships. It was a very dramatic, very disgraceful experience, and my first thought after that was that she will just blame the wine, or she will tell that wine suddenly allowed her to do this, that the wine enabled her to do that. It was very uncomfortable for me to get out of this situation, and the connotation that it probably was like designed in her mind in a way that, oh, it's wine, it will allow this thing to happen. I felt like this was the last job. This is so cheap. This is so incredibly cheap and vulgar that people opt for this. And I just stopped, no matter what, I just didn't have any incentive to opt for the substance ever again. Because I saw the rock bottom of that. That people will be justifying their it's just so cheap and vulgar. I don't know, I can't. If not medicine, most substances damage the body in some way. Their effects come only because they're toxic. To me, it seems weird that spirituality would require degradation of our body. Exactly. If not medicine, we have to be aware of what the animals we eat consume for the sake of our own health too, yes? Exactly. I detest being around people who are high or drunk, especially if I know what they're like when they're straight. I almost feel embarrassed to see people in such a state, if that makes sense. Yes, it's embarrassment and it's loss of connection. It's suddenly like feeling loneliness. You get exposed. It's a crazy experience. Then another thing I witnessed when I was growing up, because parents would party and stuff. And I remember when it was so artificial, the same thing, very cheap. Suddenly, they're 5 days of the week they're angry because they're stressed, they're at work, they're doing their life. They're angry and then like not comfortable to be around. And then they drink, and suddenly, wow, smile on their face. And you suddenly become this little clown. Hee hee hee, do this funny thing, little monkey. They suddenly pay attention to you, and it all becomes this circus. And oh my god, I just can't. It's so fake. It's so fake. I just don't. It's literally slave behavior. When people don't allow themselves, on the one hand, as a tantra therapist, I understand that it's an illness. It's an illness. As a child, and as a person who went through the experiences, I detest it. I cannot, like from these two perspectives, I regard it differently. And from this perspective, it's literally the slave behavior. And why people enslave themselves, it's very painful to watch. It's really painful to watch. How can they betray their purest form of consciousness for that? Why do they need some potion to legalize their impulses? Why are they so scared to legalize this for themselves? To create an ecological framework for realizing that. Why? Why not? But there's a huge amount of trauma in that. But then, not everyone will choose this path either. It's somewhat an easy, very expensive, but easy instant gratification route for that. It's crazy to me. It would be interesting seeing you in an episode there. 5 ladies in a panel of 2 hours. I think one of the messages didn't come through. I don't think taking psilocybin once is going to degrade the body. It can put you in permanent psychosis, depending on the person. If you study narcological findings, taking it once, DMT once, can screw up the brain completely, like for some people. It can be permanent psychosis. Because brain at every point of time renders reality for you. When this happens, if a person has some genetic predisposition for something, it can be either schizo or it can be psychosis. It's not a universal thing. It's disheartening that hallucinogens are being advertised so broadly and glorified in media right now. But as everything, it's not in people's favor. A lot of people will bear consequences that might be delayed, or some people unfortunately will enter psychosis that they won't be able to exit anymore. So it's not something to play around, not something to advertise to just everyone. But everyone should exercise their discretion, and before they do it, they should think why they want to do it. Again, as a tantra coach, tantra therapist, if someone comes to me with a desire to do it, my first question will be like, let's dig into this desire. What brought you to this point? What brought you to the point that you want to do something, force intervention in the most fine-tuned, the most supreme computer on the planet Earth? Why do you want to do this? That's a horrible experience. I'm sorry, sister. Thank you. It was really awkward because we needed to keep working on the project. Another thing was that I realized that there was a lot. It was a complex thing, yeah. I couldn't open up about this experience, and I took the blame for something that followed this thing, and I never told anyone at work. But yeah, it was really nuts. And another funny thing is that, I was somewhat, I had this funny thought about it, that when it is, for example, coming from a man, it's like an ambiguous, like this harassment and stuff. When it comes from homo person, it is like society, the progressive society might think that, oh, maybe you're just repressing your homo attraction. Maybe you're just like not progressive enough. So I had this thought in my head that it might not be perceived as harassment by some people, but some people may treat it as like, or you're just repressing something in you. Maybe that's why maybe you're against these advances towards you. Harassment is harassment. Right, alcohol is bad. Yes. Thank you, guys. If you experience a trip from it, then by definition it has damaged something. It's only experienced as a result of toxicity. Your body is forced to detox and try to repair and heal from it. Yeah. Oh, my comment got out of the lead. Maybe you can reveal it manually. Let me see. No, I don't think I can view it. I got rejected from a job interview because I said I didn't want to go drinking with them on Friday nights. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's this part of culture. I watched this lady. She's very popular in Russia. She worked for Hennessy, I think. And she's an etiquette specialist. She goes on TV, does different things. I like her style a lot. Her clothing style is really cool, and her interior is really cool. Very like, very artistic, very intricate. So I watched this lady, but she always says that saying that I don't drink is a social death. She says if you want to erase yourself from social life, you just say that you don't drink. And I was so lucky to, even in my grad school, I had companionship of just a couple of people who didn't drink. And interestingly, they were the most interesting people. And the glance was so different. Actually, you can tell people who drink casually and who don't drink. The glance, even when they're sober. There is something about it. Because you can tell when you are sober, always sober. You can tell when people have something that they fall back on, type of thing. Some coping mechanism. It adds something to the personality. It does. It's like something that they can always fall back on. And that's a huge thing. Sadly, also in the US, I was so shocked. I grew up in industrial city between European side of Russia and Asian side of Russia. And we had some drug trafficking going on there. In my kindergarten, there would be mountains of syringes behind the patios where children played during the rain. They had mountains of syringes. And I remember, and I knew about all this stuff growing up. And I remember I saved one little girl, who grabbed one syringe and started playing doctor with her doll. Oh my God. I ran to the teacher. She grabbed all that, washed her hands. It was crazy. And I thought it was the problem that existed in that city. We moved into the other city. The drug problem there was much less prominent. And then I go to the US. Oh my God. You can hardly find a person who never touched substances other than it's crazy. Alcohol is one thing that's incredibly normalized everywhere. But other things, it's crazy how normalized it is. That shocked me. Weed is like something super normal. And in Russia, weed is called dumbness. Literally, the word is dumbness. And does damage the brain. And I don't know why people take it so lightly as some blessing from God. I don't know. It's insane that it's normal. It's insane that it's something glorified. It's insane how a lot of things about it became like, no, it's fine, it's good, it's good. People ignore the apparent side effects that are comparable or worse than alcohol in the way it damages the brain. but it does it in a more quiet fashion. Yeah, very painful to watch. Have few alcoholics in my family, and yeah, it can do horrible. It can do horrible things to people. They lose their humanity. Yeah, it's like, you know how I like the notion of Satanism as gnosis, because Satan effectively, if we think about biblical scenario, Satan gave people gnosis, loss of innocence, and that is in essence people who undergo certain like traumatic events and then they go through therapy, they acquire gnosis. So it's kind of actually flirting with some facet of Satanism, in my opinion, in that notion. But I think that alcohol and substances is the biggest Satanism and evil thing in some more like socially accepted notion of what Satanism and evil things are. I think that's it, because when people voluntarily take substances that crash their superego, that crash their ability to be themselves, what can be more evil when they voluntarily sign the contract that they're going to turn into those, not even animals, something else, something different. Then about mushrooms. Mushrooms extend the mitochondrial cell life by 30% and is good for depression microdoses. If you are not following a proper diet that supports mitochondrial health, if you're stressed a lot, then nothing will extend anything in your mitochondria, I don't think. It's a complex thing. People love magic pill so much instead of trying to organize their lifestyle in a constructive, creative way in which they live in alignment with their body needs, with their mind, with their soul, if you wish. I think with most things there can be circumstances where the cons of not using it outweigh the cons of using it. Yeah. I always opt for solutions that have the least drawbacks if possible. I.e., if there is an alternative route to treat depression that has less side effects, I would aim for that. Yeah, exactly. Have people who, like, depression is pressure. You are depressing yourself. You are pressing on some areas of your life. You are oppressing yourself in something. I call depression creative constipation, because this is where you put the lid on something you should be doing, and instead you're doing something you might just avoid doing, or at least to decrease the amount of what you're doing. So you're walking the wrong path consistently and not even stepping on the right path ever. So your entire genetics is wired to be on this path. But you're walking this path persistently. You're getting incredibly exhausted because you're going against the resistance, huge amount of resistance. You're going against this resistance, you're physically exhausting yourself. Your expenditure of iron, B vitamins, vitamin C, magnesium becomes insane. Your entire body and mind are wasting. And you're taking mushrooms. Wow! What does it do? Let me ask you. When you have a habit of self-sabotage for many years and incredible exhaustion of all systems, physical systems of your body, because depression never comes just as a mental thing. Depression is incredibly expensive for nutrition as well. Often comes with nutritional neglect. It can come from nutritional problems. You are vegan. You're vegan and for 10 years you're surprised you have a depression. Of course you will have a depression because you are deprived of heme, iron, B vitamins, retinol, omega-3s, cholesterol, saturated fat. You're deprived of so much essential nutrition. Your body is living against its nature while going to work, while trying to be in relationships, holding on to this identity of veganism. Of course, person will be depressed. Mushrooms will not do a thing. And if you just buried yourself on the couch, sitting, your body isn't moving, everything calcifies inside because you're just sitting all day. You're developing fibrosis in all of your tissues. Of course, person will be depressed. Life is a comprehensive thing. Everything is in balance. Your breath, what you eat, your relationships, Your impulses, your intellectual development, creative development, everything needs to be developed. Otherwise, will be some repercussion from yourself, from the environment, from within. It's not some substance. It's not the pill. If not, then you may not have better choice. Like antibiotics, for example. Best avoided, but some circumstances are necessary. Okay. Doesn't make antibiotics good for you in general, but can be necessary intervention. Too much of anything is bad. Addictive personality and complacency are why most people can't use spirits or drugs recreationally. If you have, if your recreation is literally the most ecstatic experiences of creation, why would you go for some substances that do hard intervention in your super fine-tuned, the most supreme computer on earth as recreation? Why do that when you can do a multitude of fascinating things out of beautiful discipline, of pleasant effort, with very long-lasting reward that you can appreciate for much time later after that? That's a very interesting way to look at it, Gnosis. I'll think on this. But I need to scoot now. Thanks, sister. Have a good Saturday. I'll catch you next time. Thank you for joining in, and thank you for your comments. Can I ask a question off topic? Yes. Then, my one vegan friend and two vegetarian friends are struggling to get pregnant. All of them have been trying for 2+ years. No, they can keep trying. I mean, it might be a blessing because their pregnancy could be, it could be a very fun experience to be pregnant and then have a child with all of that. Because child will be sucking up everything. It might be possible to pull off vegan pregnancy when a woman just turned vegan, for example, and then a month later she gets pregnant, because her fat tissue will be storing fat-soluble vitamins. She will still have some choline stores, for example, that are very vital for fetal development. But if it's long-term veganism and then pregnancy, there will be choline deficiency. Very, very, very vital nutrient. Even folate, yes, it's a lot of it in plant foods, but bioavailability is questionable. It's a really, 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 really not surprising thing, and that's you can refer them to my channel. I have playlists. They can watch my videos if they're interested. The study, because I had interviews with ex-vegans. There were a couple of women who had pregnancies and their experiences, and then their children being vegan. Please refer them to my videos. If they are open to that, they should watch them to see real people who went through these experiences. I had a woman who had repeated miscarriages on veganism. Let them watch that. They're not alone. It's not a surprising thing at all. Message retracted. Why is this? The message retracted. I didn't see it. Then what is the true definition of being spiritual? To me, spirit, I don't know, I guess I'm very secular, I'm very down-to-earth person, so for me spiritualism, I don't know, really. To me, being spiritual is being just in harmony with everything, I guess. Spirit is, I made a short clipped out of the other stream, that soul is some electromagnetic property. Spirit is our temperament, our hormone, basically how people read our hormonal activity. So if you translate it into the adjective spiritual, then what does it mean? They have healthy hormones, perhaps. Probably that's how we define it. That you're hormonally healthy, fully hormonally healthy on all levels, fully embodied, and well, they are not about vegans. They're not, sadly. All do it for religious reasons. 6. No, then what can we talk about? I guess they have answers in their religions, so maybe they will have very successful, let's wish them successful pregnancies and successful childbearing if they wish to, and then some miraculous force that will help their children to be well nourished through all of that. If that all boils down to their religion, then what else can be said? What else can be done with that? Everybody's entitled to free will, but then, yeah, then people will say that children chose them. And, yeah. How long have they been vegan? That's the question. Because if it was very long journey, then they don't have any stores of anything. Vegetarians, of course, can at least have some calcium, some vitamin D, and some vitamin A in their diet. Vegans, no. Couple of years and the stores are gone. No, but I meant is that some people say that they're religious and some say we're more of a spiritual person. But when asked what you do mean, what do you mean by that, they never answer in a clear way. No, it's their feeling. I mean, the spiritual spirit, we feel spirit. We feel, we perceive it on some level, animalistic level. That's why I'm saying that it's more of a hormonal activity combined. It's our perception of hormonal activity in a human. Imagine, for example, spirit, right? Spiritual, being spiritual. Imagine a human who is very depressed, for example. No, you will see that the human is depressed. Their spirit will be down. The word is spirit is down. But then we see a human who is very, for example, aggressive. They are stressed and aggressive, but they have a lot of energy, but it's aggressive energy. We'll read it as such. It will not be necessarily spiritually pleasant. We won't say that this person is spiritual either. So we won't say that the depressed person is necessarily spiritual. We'll see them as spiritually lost. We'll see aggressive person as spiritually lost, even though they have high level of energy. And then we'll see a person who is physically embodied. What's it seen? They're very stable. They're calm and joyful. So they kind of like exude this positive aura around them. And we'll see that they're spiritually fit. So being spiritual versus being religious, I guess that spiritual comes from within, religious is more associated with some institution. So that's the distinction that's painted right there. So someone told me versus I'm seeking from within. But then being spiritually fit, how we perceive it, I think is literally hormonal wellness. This may be odd. I'm aware that carnivore probably pinnacle health, but I think there's more. Dinosaurs had exquisite physique. Where one species, dinosaurs are other species. I know the fossils had different atmosphere to grow, but I think there is a way for humans to optimize the environment for better development of healthier domineering animals like we've had pre-flood. Read about it. I bet there are some enthusiasts that go into that. Sorry, didn't finish, but was going to say all of them have been vegan since birth and one has started being vegan last 3 years. So strange, none of them can get pregnant. All have polycystic ovarian syndrome too. No, polycystic ovarian syndrome is largely tied to insulin resistance, which is not surprising, especially if they're on this like Indian leaning diet. Then they probably eat a ton of white rice, a ton of grains. Most grains are inflammatory inherently. So it's inflammation plus sugar spikes, insulin spikes. Plus also if they eat a lot of plant oils, very deep fried things. If they eat deep fried things, they eat a lot of trans fats. Trans fats create oxidized cholesterol. Trans fats create inflammation in the blood vessels. They're also very high in omega-6, low in omega-3. So all of these combined, they will create polycystic ovarian syndrome really easily and more things. It's anti-cardiovascular health diet, pretty much. especially if it's that rice and oils diet. I tried carnivore, but I had bad constipation. Need to add back carbs to and felt way better. Yeah, need to be very meticulous on the amount of fat that you're eating to not have this. Um, but yeah, I personally I don't go like carnivore after veganism. Again, my whole thing, I don't want identity. I don't want identity associated with my biology, with my food. It gives me real strong stress when I think about it. So one day I can be almost vegan. Some days I just don't want to eat much and I want just a couple of fruits, nuts maybe, then maybe a couple of slices of prosciutto and that's it. Some days I just eat eggs and meat like crazy. And then some days I eat hybrid and works very well. It feels really pleasant and feels non-restrictive. So I don't even like you know how Paul Saladino's diet is fruit and meat with a lot of fruits. I don't like that diet because it's too much sugar. I don't know. It feels not right. I don't know if I'm in ketosis or not. I don't even want to think about it because, again, I don't want diet to be. I don't want to go deep and make some regimented thing around my diet necessarily. I kind of determined what food groups don't work for them, and that's grains. I don't eat grains. Of course, some like commercial sweets and stuff, some concentrated sugars, I don't consume, and I don't want to consume them. They instantly feel not right. So those are the food groups that I don't consume. Other things I just eat intuitively. With raw veganism experience combined with the meat eating experience, I have such a good background for actually designing a purely intuitive nutrition consisting of whole foods intuition. Because you can be addicted to certain things. Your body can be not trained to seek nutrition from whole foods. It doesn't know, for example, where to harvest magnesium because a person, for example, never received enough magnesium from foods before. Will need to ask for greens. It will not know how to ask for pistachios, for example. So a human will be eating things that are masking the cravings, which are sweets oftentimes. Mineral deficiencies oftentimes manifest in sweets craving. So they will be ravenous for sweets and they will call it, okay, it's intuitive nutrition. I want sweets, I go for sweets. And I did a good amount of work over the past 5 years in clearing my diet to only unprocessed whole foods, because raw vegan diet you don't even cook things. I found what's pleasant, and I know that it's fresh raw foods as much as possible, and with animal foods also minimally processed animal foods are my favorite. So that's how it goes for me. So does this mean every person is spiritual in one way or the other, and it all comes in how their energy dictates it? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's the person is. You can tell, right, how many blockages a person has. You can see how whether they're healthy or not, whether they are stressed or not, whether they're stable or not. You can tell that, and I think that the more aware a person is, the more bright and telling their glance becomes. So you look in their eyes and you feel the radiance, and that's when person is aligned, their eyes, their glance shows just pure radiance or something, some like love, pure energy delivery is present in that glance. And as opposed to when some people, they're so blocked, they're so closed off, that's when we will regard them as non-spiritual. It feels like some glass wall is between their glance and their consciousness. You cannot see through it, kind of. It feels impermeable. You look in their eyes and it's impermeable. Their glance doesn't express anything. So, so to me, this is the distinction between spiritual and non-spiritual people, how we perceive them too. It can be through their glance as well. And the energy blockages, yes, consistent energy blockages, an acceptance, disconnect with themselves. It can manifest as well in total absence of radiance, in total like inaccessibility, like there's a shield at all times. You were on my neck about our relationship plants. Psilocybin may have been a bad example, but you do eat fruits. And what? So what? Never claimed otherwise. YouTube removed that comment, so I mailed you this time about suggestions. Sure, thanks a lot. Actually, yeah, if you have anything that, anything long, if you have essays in mind that you would like to share, if there's anything with links, you can always email me, info@rawformoflife.com. So feel free to do that. I guess we should be wrapping up soon. Turned out to be a little bit of passionate stream today. And started kind of in a turbulent way. But as we progress, we will be having more alignment, we'll be having more precision, and it will be going wonderfully. It's already wonderful. Thank you, everyone. It was a great stream. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your kind words. Please drop your questions in the comments. If you have anything from that was inspired by this stream, write it in the comments in the saved live stream or email me. I will be really happy to address all of your concerns in the next stream. Also, feel free to sign up to work with me, Human Renaissance, on my website, rawformoflife.com. First session is 50% off with code FIRSTRFL. Great stream. Have a good night. You too. Thanks a lot. Have a happy Saturday, and we'll see you next time. Guys, I'm turning off.